I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning.
Chance to commence the agenda?
Yeah.
I'll second it. Motion from Simsrud and a second from Kirby to commence the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
You want to go right away?
I guess Carl was kind enough to give me a heads up on the conservation acres,
You're for that.
and thought maybe you'd want an estimate of those, so I got that information. And
Right on to that then.
okay,
Discussion regarding how conservation exempt land affects Winnebago County tax rates.
first, because I want to get rid of this thing. You guys want this? It's new updated.
It'd be excellent. I'd like a new one then too, if it's updated.
This is new, and what I did is I traded information from our GIS, provided those guys information, and they made these for us.
Okay.
So I got two of them.
Oh, I don't want a laminated one.
Okay.
One you can fold up.
I can't do
Oh,
that.
you can't?
No,
Oh, okay.
I can't do that. Wish I could. But I'll just shut it here. So, this is everything the county owns. And this is a very, very rough estimate. On the back page, what I did is I took what the county has, its WRP. I egg processed a couple parcels that are taxable. Average tax per acre on those is $10. So I took on the back sheet there, I used $10 for what the county has at WRP. And then the remaining acres are Thorpe, Flores Park, everything else. So Betty, what's her name, Betty Thompson? Yeah, Betty Thompson has that 40 acres. Mike, you probably know right where it is. Across the railroad tracks there. I call it the Snake Road that goes through Norway Township. Anyway, she's got a 40 acres there that's just all woods. And her taxes per acre are $2.65.
That's a good reference.
So that's how I came up with the numbers that I did. So total loss revenue for everything is back there. And like I said, it's a very rough estimate. You know, you get out to Thorpe and you got water that has no CSR. You got, you know, and there's a lot of state-owned property too, but a lot of it's like islands up at Rice Lake, all the surrounding acres, Hogs Back, Lake Harmon, I think they own a lot up there. Is that Winnebago County owned? That's a lot of it's state, I think, because I think it's all government lots up there.
Yeah, I think that was.
So for what it's worth, that's a very rough idea.
The other part of this is, you know, some of this land that you're identifying here, the county conservation's paying the taxes, or the levies on the drainage. They're not paying taxes, but they're paying the levies on the drainage. So that's another issue we're having, is with federal lands and some state lands not paying for stuff like that.
Now, the state pays on some parcels they acquire, even if it's WRP, based on what funds they use to purchase it. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the migration waterfowl revenue, I believe.
That they do pay.
That they have to pay taxes on that land, and I think it's because it's generated by the hunters, and I don't know why, but it's their rules.
Well, one parcel that I've been referencing is the parcel up by Rice Lake there that has the Pittman Roberts federal funding. That's the taxes you pay on ammunition and guns.
Mm-hmm, I think so.
And that is, you don't have to pay any levies or taxes.
Well, it's, yeah, you know, a lot of it, like I said, you can, the WRP even, I mean, you can take Sybil Sands old land. I mean, that was nothing basically to begin with, right south of Lake Mills. And then, you know, you can take the farm that Harry Halverson owned, which was a good farm and taken out of production. So there's a lot of, that $10, I think, I would have to say is probably high.
Have you seen what they're trying to sell the Harry Halverson farm for? It's for sale.
Really?
At least
I thought the
Thompson.
I thought the DNR owned the remaining rights on that.
I don't know, there's an ad in the paper.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be a good reference.
Yeah.
On what WRP's going for. That's one of the first ones to go in.
Well, you know, when they changed the law as far as the tillable, non-tillable, and the WRP was thrown into that, you know, the people that owned it were shocked at the taxes, how they went up, but that has generated a lot more revenue than it ever did before.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up today was, I know Hancock County put a moratorium on any more purchases of land by the conservation. I don't know how that's being implemented or whatnot, whether they have to come to the Board of Supervisors to be able to do that, if they're giving them a waiver for each parcel or what. But, I think it's something we seriously have to look at. Do we have enough county land now? And, you know, the Conservation Board seems to be justified in they have the money there, they've got the grants to purchase it, but it is in the county's best interest to do that.
Especially land that can be farmed, productive land taken.
Most of it, though, they're purchasing as the remaining rights is already in WRP, but, I mean, that's just that they're getting now. But if, you know, I mean, the conservation, I feel, is a good to have. But then if the county doesn't get it, is the state gonna get it? Or the DNR, however you wanna look at that, and then you get no revenue. I don't know how it's gonna work for you guys, but, you know, someone I think is going to, you know, National Heritage Foundation, I think someone's gonna pick it up. But, I mean, 15 years ago was the first WRPs we ever had, you know? It was just a new thing. Maybe a dozen. You know, they did limit, I think it's Hancock County and a few other counties limited the slough bill, which is your forest reserve, wetlands, that kind of stuff, on the amount of acres that could go into that.
We can do that.
Yeah.
That supersedes the state statute though, doesn't it? That's
Or
interesting.
is there a home rule provision that allows us to do that?
Yeah, I don't know if you can, I know there's some counties and how they did it, I don't know for sure, Mike, whether they can limit their acres or if they grandfathered in those that already had the exemptions.
Well, the state can limit it, but that's interesting that the county can't.
I don't know if it's I've never looked into it because I never had to, I guess. But I don't know if the county can say, I think it's a county choice, but I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. But I know you know, different people I've talked to in our meetings and that some have limited it and some don't do it anymore. Some grandfathered in those that had it. So there must be choices, you know. But like all Milford's land up there, that was in Forest Reserve. But it's some beautiful oak trees too, I'd hate to see them ripped out.
There's more trees. I see over in Worth County, just across the line, there's some oak trees coming out of it.
I know it, my husband went by and he came home and told me all about it last night. He's not for that, I guess, but I think they're calling that an oak restoration project. And I don't quite understand it, but I think they cut them down and then they go in and plant new.
Somewhere else.
I don't know. That's what I got for you, and if you want me to come up with, something else or do it another way, I'd be happy to.
The only thing I want to know, how many acres of state land do we have and federal?
Well, U.S. Fish, and Iowa Department of Natural Resources.
So is it all on here?
No.
Okay. This is just for Winnebago County.
Yeah, Iowa Department of Natural Resources has about 300 acres that are taxable.
Taxable.
Yes, and they have, DNR has 2,020 acres that is exempt.
So that would be
2,020.
That's for who?
That is the DNR that's taxable, or excuse me, exempt. State of Iowa, we don't have all our polygons measured for them since they're exempt and some are the islands and such, so I can't give you that total. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, has just under 1,000. That's exempt also.
So if you say you got 2,000 and you got 1,000, another 3,000 acres of exempt land. And,
In addition to what the county has.
right. So that's double that 18,000, so we're up to $36,000 in lost revenue. Just shooting for the hip.
Yeah, exactly. You might have to, but, let's see if I got that number.
Depends on how it breaks down.
Right. It's a lot of acres with minimal value. I mean, I can see your guys' concern on it. I mean,
I guess I just feel like I'd rather have more control. They're gonna make those decisions, take tax revenue away from us and put the burden on the taxpayers. I feel like we should have a say
Burden on the taxpayers for the drainage.
for everything, the taxes, the drainage, so we should have the final say on it.
There's also a figure that's not, part of the equation that's not figured into is then also the cost of maintaining this land that we have to put into the conservation.
Yeah, and getting rid of the trees over the drainage lines.
And that's why I have such strong feelings about the federal government getting too much land that they can't maintain on their part.
yeah, there's a lot of sides to it, I mean, I know when the fire districts, I'm just blank on the guy's name. Martin Thompson. It was part of a fire district anyway, when the WRP was assessed differently, He's like, well, they're gonna want fire protection if it starts on fire, they're gonna want, that kind of stuff. But
now we get taxes for that unless it's a government entity. The private landowners are paying taxes.
Cassuth, they're controlling the county buying more property, right? Or anybody, I don't know.
I was only knowing about the handicap.
Obviously, the city.
I wonder if Cassuth doesn't, I don't know if they opted out of the SLU bill like I was talking earlier, or how that worked, but, should it be limited? I'm not saying not, but we sure don't want our county to look like Cassuth County either. There's nothing over that way.
But there's lots of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. You're 100% right there. I don't know, like I said, the money is important.
I wonder what the total drainage bills per year is for the county.
On the conservation side,
Yeah.
because we've got also have our roads.
Yeah, no, not on that part, yeah.
30,000 for us this year.
What's that?
30,000 for us this year.
Yeah, that's just the right of way.
Because I'm guessing that number would be bigger than 18,000. Which this number is a little smaller than I thought.
Yeah, it's a type of land it is,
So is this something we want to get more information from other counties about, how they're doing it?
Well, yeah, it's always nice to know what other people are doing, I guess, as far as control of what happens in the county. That's going to, in a sense, be somewhat of a double negative to the revenue of the county. I mean, but there's also the positive of it too. I mean, it's nice to have places for parks to go and stuff like that.
But like you discussed earlier, there's certain areas that aren't going to be losing a lot by putting it into this program. I'd rather have the ability to make that determination. There's an 80 acres that had some good farmland on it, but somebody just didn't want to.
How would it work though like Bob Buffington, he's putting his in the WRP.
That has nothing that he's owning that.
Right, but then he'd also have the option after it goes into WRP to sell it to anyone that he wants. How do you control that with the DNR and the,
How do you pretend to tell?
The DNR, you don't, they have a lot of power. I think that's where it's gonna be hard to,
I'd be surprised, with their shrinking budget, I'd be surprised they have a lot of land to do that.
those are the things, I guess, I'm just thinking that are gonna be very hard to, change.
But I think we need to have some control over the counties.
Right.
What do you think, Mike?
Haven't given much thought, really. I guess, off the top of my head, we probably should check with the state to see just exactly what authority we do have when it comes to all this. What are you speaking ourselves against them? We can't, if we're barred from doing it anyways. I guess I only have one, call it whatever, complaint with the way they've been operating is they are putting, and I don't know how many acres, but I know of one farm next to where I grew up, a mile away, that should not be in a program, should be farmed. So that's what gets at my call, when they buy good farmland.
If you go to west of where you grew up, that low area though, was it Chuck Holland that had that area?
Yeah.
That was never anything and should have probably gone into something.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with lands that are, you're only gonna crop once every 3 or 4 years because it's low.
And they make good filtering areas too, for the water.
There's one up between Rake and Buffalo, and I can't understand why he doesn't have that ground. Comes out almost every year.
Oh, look at Solis out here. I mean, right on Highway 9 there, the Corps own it now. I mean, that poor man should have put it into something years ago, and he tried farming it every year. He also lived to be 100 and something too, so I don't know, but. Yeah, there's land that should be and there's land that shouldn't be. But like I said,
We probably should have a discussion with the full board of the conservation, with us three. Get a philosophical agreement to
Once we find out what we can and can't do.
I should know her last name, Cheryl from the NRCS office.
Yeah, Anderson.
Anderson, thank you. She's a very sharp gal. She might be a good contact for you too. If she doesn't know, if she knows people, she should be asking. Because they go through and renew all the wetlands every year, and they're very good to work with, so. I'll just wait to hear from anyone. If there's anything I can get for you, let me know, or tell Carla, and we'll talk. And
Thanks for the information.
Thank
you're welcome. Good luck.
Full city Baker roll.
You what?
You said to let me know if there's anything I can get you.
Okay, I'm on it. I'll go out.
Apple.
Coffee?
You got coffee, we need apple fritters.
Oh, apples? Yeah, they're good.
Okay, Scott Miners, engineer, will discuss secondary road matters.
Good morning.
Morning.
Just a few updates for you. The guys finished with painting last week, so our painting operations are done. We're nearing our end of the gravel run, and they're working kind of around Fort City, trying to finish up the county, so hopefully they get done with that here shortly. The crew's been working on the State Line Bridge up east of Rake, and that was going pretty good last week, and we've gotten some rain, so with good weather and everything, we can get the hole filled in and the road opened up very shortly, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks get started on the next bridge, which is Eden Township 20, Section 28, or I think south of Jeff Peterson, if you know where he lives up there. I think there's some pretty heavy utility lines above that one, so Mark's been working with them and trying to find a spot, schedule, while they've kind of been giving him the runaround, but hopefully that works out for there, and keep moving on our projects. All of our gravel road mowing is done, and our second round of mowing on the blacktops is done, so everything's on schedule, on target there. Then the last thing is next week we'd like to bring a resolution for a new truck and snow equipment to fit in this year's equipment budget. And this if you remember last time, we took quotes on different trucks from several different suppliers, several different models, and we went with the Western Star, and we plan to do the same this time. So plan to get that from Don's in Fairbank, where we got the last one.
Did you still get bids?
Did not get bids this time, but the numbers come. Did not get bids this time. We got them last time, if you remember, and this year come in within about 1% of the cost. So over the course of a year, that's pretty good.
What was that for?
Snow plow truck.
How old was the one that it's gonna replace?
541, what?
$541, 2006.
10 years about the life of them, is that it? Or-
I think it's got about 385 on it, somewhere in there, 385,000. So we're starting to get a little bit caught up. 300,000, it seems, is a good, we don't have to put a lot of money in it up until that point.
What would I do? 300,000 on is when the stuff starts to happen.
Better than it used to be. I mean, when we were buying light truck, smaller trucks, it was 100,000.
Are we gonna have any problems with our fund balance, being able to afford it, or?
No, we are looking good.
Our carryover was way more than projected.
Yeah, so cash balance is sitting good, and of course it's in the budget, so it'll work well.
Okay, anything else for secondary roads? Number 4, discussion of possible action regarding King Township, Section 34 ditch maintenance agreement.
Well, I'll preface the discussion by saying Al's out of town and wasn't able to make it today, so,
Yeah, he called me last night.
yep, I called him yesterday to see if he had gotten some of my emails, and he said he hadn't for whatever reason, but he sounded like he was a little bit distracted at the moment, so in any case, I can update you all on what has transpired since our last meeting. Did you want to start, or?
Oh, I just told him that we would probably discuss it today, but we would not make any decisions until next week when he could be here. I didn't tell him we would completely table it, but we would table the decision making until he was here to give his side of the story or version of what.
Sure. So I told him as well. So just to update you, if you remember, I brought an agreement before you a couple weeks ago, and that agreement had laid out how the ditch should lay and what grades we would dig it to. It said the landowner would mow it, and we would periodically reshape the ditch in due time as necessary, as workload and budget allows. He came into my office one day and was very upset about the way that agreement was written. He didn't think that, as time and budget allows, was good enough for him. And he also wasn't happy with the way that we were going to do the work. So as I thought we had at least some semblance of a reasonable agreement, it became evident that we did not. So he had a counter proposal, which I have relayed to you guys. This is not something that we necessarily support. He added a few different things that he would like, and the board gave direction to complete the work by November 30th, so he had already given that direction. That's not an objection. He wanted the county to haul the dirt into his field, which is not what we do in any case anymore.
What do we do with the dirt?
We haul the dirt away. And
Or spread it right adjacent to
Wouldn't it not be cheaper just to haul it out in this field and let him level it? Just dump it out there in that washout area and haul it somewhere else? I would think that it would be, you just have one truck running back and forth to get rid of it rather than hauling it to whatever location you're gonna haul it to.
us wasn't whether it was cheaper, is what's kind of our policy as a big picture. When we haul it away, we know where it is, and we don't have to worry about damaging anybody's field or hauling material out there they don't like. And I'm sure you've dealt with that a number of times in the past. It just is the most efficient from an overall department standpoint. Also allows us to do the work when the weather maybe not so perfect. Just a lot more that goes into it when we have such a tight schedule for some of these things. It makes more sense for us to have the ability to do what we want with it. The other part he wanted in there is to relocate his driveway, which I don't remember being part of the conversation before then. Somehow he added that in there.
And I discussed that with him, with the driveway guys, and he made the statement at one point that he really didn't care about the driveway, he was gonna eliminate it, and I was thinking he wants one on that side, which, if you dig the old one out, what do you do with that dirt? You haul it away somewhere? Almost just as easy just to take it up and dump it out and then let him reshape it. But the other thing I suggest to him is he hire somebody with a gravel truck. And can you guys put the dirt into another truck that hauls it out into the field for him? If he hires his own truck?
We do that all the time. If they want to haul it, if they want dirt, we make that option available to them.
That doesn't seem unreasonable that he would hire. I know a couple of guys that are pretty reasonable with their trucks as far as.
I did offer that. He was not acceptable to that at all.
He did not seem to be overly negative when I suggested. Yeah, as far as, go ahead.
I guess overall, he was not very workable with me, so either, there's an issue with the communication between me and him or something else.
Well, that's been obvious since the start of it.
Yeah.
He doesn't agree with the way you guys are thinking. And some of it I agree with, and some of it I think he's overreacting. So he doesn't need to get to the level that he's taken it to a couple of times when it comes to the language. I don't look at it in a personality sense. I look at it, if I was him, what would I want with my ground? And it was fair and it's reasonable. And, if it's cheaper to haul the dirt into his field, why wouldn't we haul it in the field rather than haul it somewhere else? If it takes less man time in a truck. It's purely if it cost us more to do that, then I would say, no, that's not going to happen.
The trouble is, we put that in writing and then we're tied to it. So if the day we move out there, it starts to rain and it rains for a week, then our machine sits there for a week.
It's hard on the trucks too.
Yeah, and he's not gonna like what it does to his field.
He's already accepted what it's going to happen as far as the packing and stuff like that. He said he'd have to go out there with a ripper and loosen the ground up and stuff. He knows that. So,
Well, it seems absurd to me that we can't work with him on that. We're gonna be there November 1st. If it's raining, we're gonna haul dirt away. If it's not, we'll haul it in the field. I mean,
Sure, Mike. That sounds better just coming out of your mouth. It's hard to come up with all the scenarios and put it in the agreement.
no, I know.
If I were to say that, when Mark's on site with the crews, he's making a lot of split-second decisions every minute of the day. And to try to, come up 2 months ahead of time and try to spell all that in an agreement, say, here's what you should do, X, Y, Z, and that's all we have to. Sure, but Mike, what I'm trying to say is, our staff makes a lot of decisions, and to try to, pigeonhole what we're going to do and hand that down, I think is counterproductive to the efficiency of our department. We need to
How
raise,
is that counterproductive? If we can do it, we'll do it. If we can't, we won't.
If we can't, just pilot and then you can move it whenever it is feasible to do it. Or he can move it as far as, if he wants it out there. I mean, he can, there should be a little give and take on this. If we did,
Absolutely should be, and so far, all we've done is give.
yeah, well, and it says in the drainage bylaws that you shall maintain, and it does not exempt secondary roads from maintaining drainage.
specific to tiles drainage district facilities, which this is not.
That's not in the road laws. That's in drainage district laws.
So, I respect what you guys are saying, however, like you
But it's
said,
the
to be able to make
county
decisions,
drainage.
excuse me, Bill, for the county to be able to make decisions, like you're saying, on the fly like that, we need to operate as we would normally operate as a department, rather than by agreements that are set out by the landowners. We have agreed, and as directed by the board, to clean that ditch this fall, and that's something we can absolutely do. You know, within some confines of the decisions that me and my staff need to make in order to get it done, such as if it rains for a week.
This may not be a main, but the county also, way back when, created the water going down that ditch. They intended for the water to go down that ditch. Therefore, they should maintain the water way out the ditch.
And that we will do, and also as I've shown you, that the ditch is lower than the low spot in the field, as evident by our survey. So, you know, if you did a little bit of field work, it might just drain by itself. In our project, we'll dig it down much deeper so it has the chance to slowly silt in and not affect the drainage as he thinks it does. I think
Well,
that,
when we talked on the phone, and I'm not gonna get into it, I alluded to that I would hope that you would ask for a closed session to talk about some issues with you, because we can't do that. We can't instigate closed sessions. And, somewhere along the line, in the last 25 years, it's gone from a board run to all individual run. And we get told what's gonna happen for the county. And I think that's a discussion that we should have with you. And I don't think the public needs to know that. It's none of their business. And, because it involves personnel and personalities. So take it for what it's worth, but I think that discussion needs to be had sooner than later, so.
very good.
And as far as his part of it, we're a reasonable time. I don't necessarily completely agree with his position on that. It should be within budget and time restraints, but not to go on for 10 years or 15 years or whatever. Again, like I said, at the last meeting, last time we talked about this, we need to figure out a way to be able to get some of these smaller projects done also. I mean, it's, the people that pay, they're paying taxes, and they would like their things to be the way they need to be. Now, if it's just a secondary road washing out and you guys gotta take care of it, that's your own decision of the project. But, when it comes to draining someone's field, whether it's this one or any other field, if it never rises to the level of importance in your guys' eyes, it doesn't sit well with the people that have to sit there and look at the water in the field all the time and running through the wrong spot.
Is there a lot of those that we're not aware of, or I guess?
I've had people tell me that there's, you know, and I'm not gonna mention any names, that there are some that you guys fix that less important than what this one is, just because it's on the right man's land or something like that. Now, I choose to hope that that's not true. But I have heard it from a few different sources, but then usually those sources are not happy with something, so.
Well, if there's some specifics that you'd like to talk about, we should talk about that because maybe you are, I'm not aware of areas, I guess.
Yeah. No, but some of it that I would look at myself.
I know some of the work you've done in the ditches was due to FEMA damage, and it was paid for by FEMA to do the work, so it's almost on a different level.
Yeah, that's all together. We're almost required to do that to get payments.
And that may be.
And unfortunately, that's been twice in the last 10 years. And both times it took pretty much 2 full falls to complete that work, so. Which is a direct result of flooding. Yeah, there's lots and lots of those places that have been cleaned twice in the last 10 years, but that's why it was. So maybe in somebody's eyes, that's part of their, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's, a lot of the stuff happened
Usually there's-
before I was ever here paying attention to, so.
Usually there's an explanation why we do it.
That's what
why
I
we do
usually
it.
find. If you communicate it, usually you figure out, get to the bottom, get all the facts, instead of making your assumptions off and not knowing all the facts. Well, he'll want to be here next week, I guess we can further discuss it then. It's,
Sure, I can have for you the original agreement that we typed up as well as the
you send them to us in an email.
agreement that Al proposed. Our recommendation will be to use the original agreement, but we can talk about it more next week.
Okay. Auditor's office will discuss drainage matters.
Bill, I just had a question for you on DD 21 Lat 8, Southwest of Rake. Is that one that Kiewit had looked at? It's just a tile.
DD 21 Lat 8.
It's right by the railroad tracks, up by Rake, southwest of Rake.
Yeah, is that one that Kiewit?
I think he looked at it, or, because I don't remember the landowner that called, so that's why I can't think of it, but, because we just did Lat 10, and then this lady called to find out about her bill, and she says, well, what about Lat 8, because that's not draining very well, and it's got some issues.
What's the name? One goes west.
It's right here.
The one that goes,
For Holland.
well, yeah, the one that runs up into that, behind Schmitz and Creek House there. Yeah.
So I didn't know if
What about
somebody's actually working on it. I don't have a petition
We
on it.
went, the landowner, Dwayne Davis is the one that, and we did a bunch of, experimental digging, and it's just overwhelmed. I mean, we could find no problem with the tile, other than he did leave an open trench in that, CRP back there. It was plugged with tree roots back in that.
So are we cleaning that out, or what are we doing?
Well, the open ditch is still sitting there, so wet they can't get to it.
Okay. And that's what she wondered, if it was still wet. And I said I didn't
The
know.
water is finally gone. I just went up and looked, last week, I think it was. The water is finally gone and Dwayne Davis is there, but the dirt is still moist. I went around, walked in there. Of course, it's rained some too. But the water, the standing water is finally gone, so it did drain it.
Okay, good. So as long as somebody's looking at it, that's great.
It's taken that long to drain?
The tile,
That's very abnormal, ain't it, with a 32-inch main?
Oh, that one's only,
yeah, with the
It
tile.
says right here 32.
Well, no, the lat 8 is,
Lat 8 is
10 inch
10
and
and
8
8, but the main is 32. It's dumping
Yeah.
into a 30.
it dumps into
30.
it dumps into the grade of it is poor. It dumps into the bottom of the main. The tile actually goes into the bottom of the main. And it's just, I think it just creates a bit of a restriction there with, but the tile is flowing everywhere we dug it up. It is flowing, the tile is full, and,
on the very upper end where Bill's talking about, it has a forced outlet. It has to force its way into that little ditch they dug because of the tree roots kind of in between there. So. And it got, it was that last fall that it really got.
it's just getting to the point now where they'll be able to go out and probably dig in it without making.
Has he checked the main to see if that's
Yes,
working? Okay.
let's go. You actually,
There was probably 20 acres of water this spring in that whole system.
And DD 21 is not separated out by laterals. So I don't know if sometime we want to reclass that because everybody's paying for the lat 10 right now. And if we were to do anything with lat 8, everyone's going to pay for that. Just a thought.
I thought that it was required if we do projects on the laterals and they're not, that we reclassify it.
We just haven't done that in the past.
You not law?
I think so.
It's in the code. We just haven't done it.
Really?
It's been there forever.
Yeah. So that, I just wanted to talk about that. Otherwise, I don't have anything that's not on the agenda.
Do we need to put it on to discuss reclassifying DD 21?
I would think so.
yeah.
Well, the work's already been done on lat 10. I don't know what we're gonna do for lat 8.
Has it been billed?
No, because I just got the bill the other day.
So if it hasn't been billed,
Lat 10 hasn't
we
been,
still have time to reclassify before we bill.
And that's fine, yeah.
lat 10 hasn't been finished yet, unless they just did it
I just got the bill this week.
from Holland.
Mhm.
Okay, so they did get out there and
Mhm.
bury that, put that tile.
Well, they sent a bill, so. That's all I know.
These machines been sitting out for quite a while.
Yeah, and it was 10/5 by the time they were done. So I quick sent a letter. Even though the project was done, I sent a letter.
Anything else for drainage?
I don't.
All right, discussion with possible action regarding reclassification of DD 47.
I had Jacobson Westergaard do a quote for me and WHKS. And Jacobson Westergaard came in at $10,468. WHKS came in at $50,000.
How much?
$50,000. WHKS has been working with the city of Lake Mills with all of that workings in their water system. They say it's going to be hard to figure out just what the drainage portion will be. And without giving anybody any amounts, I went back to Jacobson Westergaard and said, did you know this? Did you know it's in the sewer system? Blah, blah, blah. And he said, yes, because they have $11 a parcel for the town parcels and $3 an acre for the ag land. So, 10,468.
The other was 50 even.
Yeah. So I would recommend that we go with Jacobson Westergaard.
Yeah.
So,
$3 an acre.
yeah.
Ag, 11 strong parcels.
And like I said, they're aware of the sewer system and whatever. I wanted them to, if they needed to up their estimate, and they felt they did not have to. So if you go with them, here's an agreement. A lot of it sometimes too is the person that does the reclassification is in Rochester. So that could have to do with travel time, things like that. Andy would have to learn a lot to do it because he's not a classification person. But
Yeah.
That guy in Rochester is also the guy who
Yeah.
designed their improvements.
Ready?
Yep.
Make a motion. Classified workers, Jacobson, Westergaard.
they're what?
There's
All
some
subdivision on DD 47.
Yeah.
Stenzer and second from Derby to approve the reclassification of DD 47 with Jacobs and Westergaard doing the work. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So if you'd like to sign that for me, that would be great. And I don't know about the future, if we do DD 21, do you want me to still get estimates from at least 2 people? Okay, well, I didn't know if you just wanted to go with Jacobs and Westergaard, they seem to be doing okay. I don't know, so something to think about.
Always good to have two quotes.
Then you have something to show people
Right.
on why you made your decision.
So I can contact the 2 regarding DD 21 and just have them start working on estimates for me for next week. And then in the near future, I'd like to do a DD 3 because it's a nightmare too.
That's a joint one with Cassuth.
But they don't have very much of it.
Well, we've been skirting the law. Why don't we just get it all done?
Well, we talked about that a couple years ago, about just reclassifying the whole county, but it's costly. And when you don't do work on some of these districts, it's not very cost effective. So
We're just trying to do them as we go.
yeah, we should have done 2 and we should have done 5, is what we should have done, but.
I'm just saying, if we did the whole county,
Yeah.
if we did the whole county and bid it out that way, I would think that it would be a lot less.
Well, but now we don't need to do the whole county, because we have done some in the recent past,
Right.
the last 20
The ones that
years.
we need to do.
Yeah.
Right, and we do have drainage districts that we haven't used or that we haven't done a project on for 50 years. Some of them actually just run the way they're supposed to. So
Right.
it just works really well to just do them as
I
we're.
think as we go
Some
now.
are already classified by laterals.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Some like out east at like 54.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
of those laterals are classified and some aren't because they've been done when projects have
Yeah, that's a nightmare too. But I don't really even want to go there. Because it's okay now. I mean, I think it's pretty good. But
been. Back when that one, it was decided on that one that anytime a project was done on a lateral, that lateral should be classified.
so then we should be doing 6-inch. Okay. But we're not. So. Next time. I'll try and recall that next time.
On to number 7, consider to approve pay estimate number 5 to Larson Contracting for DD 23.
And you should have that card up.
yeah, show me that.
I don't have it. Nope.
It's not in these, is it?
Shouldn't be.
No?
Did they put it in the wrong folder?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't see it, but
Okay. Well, I'll go try to find that then.
semi-monthly county claims. Yeah.
Make motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion Stentor and second Derby to approve the semi-monthly county claims. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Consider for approval auditors transfers. Pretty big ones.
I know.
I'll make a motion to approve the auditor's transfers.
Second. Motion Derby, second Stentor to approve the auditor's transfers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Found it?
Yeah, we sure did. I just reprinted it.
Just so you know, AJ, it totaled $12.47.
That's major headlines. I'm gonna have to call radio on.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd get them in here live.
I'm gonna, yeah, we'll see if we can get an investigation going on this as quickly as possible.
Really?
Deal with the
Yeah, sorry.
I'll never know the stories they're gonna want.
Did you guys have any questions on claims?
I do, but I can ask that person directly.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Chris, can I just give that to you?
You sure can.
Thank you.
So we got pay estimate.
Yes.
Still has 10% retainage.
Is there still a possibility for damages? Or why is there still 10%?
It's not the final yet.
Oh,
This is just pay estimate number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Motion Stentor, second Derby to approve pay estimate number 5 to Larson Contracting for DD 2-3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consider for approval telephone reimbursement for Matt Dubay, zoning administrator.
Matt's requesting $42 a month for cell phone reimbursement.
Sanitary, anything else here? Reimburse cell phone?
Policy to allow it. Is this the way we discussed it that last time?
It's his portion of the bill.
Right.
I don't have a problem.
I'll make a motion to approve the telephone reimbursement for Matt Dubay.
Second. Motion Derby, second Stentor to approve telephone reimbursement for Matt Dubay, Zoning administrator, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Well, discuss wind turbine ordinance.
Yes, thank you. Kind of give you guys a rough idea where we're at right now. It's been fairly quiet since our last meeting, probably April, last April, in here with EDF. I haven't had any conversations with them up until last Wednesday. I got an email from James Scott with EDF. He's their project manager. Wanted to know where we were on our ordinance, if we had it done yet. And I told him that we had not. I was kind of looking for them, based on our last conversation, you know, what the way that the county's done it before, and this is kind of one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you guys about it as well. The last 3 wind turbines that went in, they went in under a special use permit, what do I call it? Exceptions, special use exceptions. So the way that the code reads now is anything zoned ag can have a wind turbine under a special use exception. That's the way it's been done in the past. I know discussions up to this point, sounds like we want to have an actual ordinance in the code. I just want to make sure that that's the way that we want to go. More so just because that's how it's going to be written. You know, I could go either way, but once we get it in the zoning ordinance in the code, that's going to probably how it's going to be from here on out. The special use exceptions kind of allow for you know, rules on specific projects. I didn't know if you guys are in, you know about how that kind of works. I visited with Becky a lot and got copies of the last 3 special exceptions, and all 3 of them are slightly different. I think that things are added and subtracted in there as needed per the projects. Once we put a code in place, kind of like what Kossuth and some of our surrounding counties have done, as long as they meet those requirements, we're obligated to give them permits to build. So I wanted to kind of visit with you guys what your thoughts were on those, because I think I did give a building permit for a weather tower, a temporary weather tower that was constructed about 3 weeks ago. So I know that they're planning on moving forward with the project in Winnebago County. But that's about all I know at this point. So there's probably going to be some conversations with EDF. You know, I'm using Kossuth County's ordinance as a template at this point, because I know that they put a lot of time and effort into that. And my review of the ordinance seems to it encompasses a lot of things, but there's still some things that I'd like to, maybe with the support of my board and you guys, to add in there as well, and based on some public input as well. So
I'm not familiar with what you were talking about, the special.
okay, so with the special exception permit, that is basically everybody comes to the table and they want to get a permit on a project. It's only specific for that one project. So if turbine company X comes in, we visit with them, have some conversations, with public and my zoning board and myself. We come up with the rules and regulations for that specific project. Same thing if turbine company Y comes in, we sit down and go through them with that as well. With an ordinance, it's written one time in our code, and as long as they meet certain criteria, we,
It's the same rules every time. And-
correct,
So there's no special circumstances if we have an ordinance?
correct.
The other way, we can allow for special circumstances here, but not there.
Correct. My thought is, and even visiting with Becky on how things have been done up to this point, and with my history in some of the telecom markets, they're all special use permits, is what I call them, special exceptions, because, every project you can maybe learn from, you want to subtract or add from. I know just visiting with, secondary roads, being part of that meeting, there's some road improvements that are going to have to be done for them to be able to access certain properties that are maybe on a level B type road. There's so many things that can kind of change and move on these projects. Personally, I think that we should go with a special use permit. I think it's a lot harder to change an ordinance once we have it all set in stone. That's just my thoughts.
We would have possibly more control with that then?
Correct.
Yes, because we can.
A lot more control.
We can decide what we want, what we don't want. And-
Which gives the citizens, I'm sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
which gives the citizens more control.
Yes.
Absolutely, and that's the phone call I get probably about every other day. Luckily, I have my cell phone number on the internet, and people can call and visit and text, and I'm out and about in the community enough that this is, interestingly enough, taking more time than trying to throw a PEPL vote together for the school board. So, and it's getting some wheels now. I think that they're running into some time constraints with some federal tax incentives coming up. So I know Cassuth County put up, I saw at least 3 weather towers, research type deals. So it's gonna happen. I did visit with the Faribault County zoning administrator a couple months ago, and just alluded to her that this is kind of where we were going. We don't have anything set in stone yet, but here's Cassuth County's. They had a lot of public input on putting that together. I did visit with the assistant to the engineer just out when we were out doing a survey. And he said that it was really good to have a lot of the public input to put that together. But I think we should do that every single time. That's why I think the special use permit or special exception permit would probably be the way to go per project.
We don't have to approve, or the people don't have to approve anything that they don't like. I mean, one of the reasons for the ordinance or whatever was to make sure that they have guidelines that they say that they're going to stay by, within, but sometimes they end up not, because once you sign a contract, they have it in there where they can do whatever they want.
As far as contract, you're talking landowners to
The landowners
to
and they say that they won't put one here, but they can. That's the way the contract reads.
right.
They
That's
change
the
their mind.
contract end.
Yeah.
But if we put together setbacks and rules to how adjacent landowners have to be affected
Yeah.
based on where they're put, that's basically what these companies want to know. Once they have an idea on how the rules are going to be affecting the engineering on it, and who's going to sign up and who's not, it's a chess game, to be quite honest. If they get landowner A that says, yep, they can have it here, and landowner B that they were planning on, based on the setbacks that we discuss, then they've got to really kind of jockey some things around to be able to make their engineering work on how the towers function, based on the topography of the land and how that works. So I think it'd be to our best interest to spell out exactly, number one, what kind of setbacks we're looking at, and number two, how it can be affected to an adjacent landowner that maybe wouldn't be interested in having a turbine on their land, or maybe down the road could. Those are the phone calls I'm getting. How's this going to affect me?
So going through the special use exception, are we giving them the permit before all that's determined where they're gonna be putting those? Are we gonna be setting the setbacks in that special use exception?
Correct. Yep, we're going to spell all the rules out, and then it's up to them to apply for permits on an individual basis after they meet those requirements, and that'd be part of my job.
Individual hours?
You bet.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. As a whole on the project, we'd spell it out, what the project boundaries would be, and maybe name the project, and then give them individual permits based on how they meet the requirements that are spelled out in the special use permits, or exception permits. I think it'd just be easier to do something like that instead of redo the code.
Well, I would think they'd want it too, wouldn't they? The tower companies?
Probably not, because right now the tower companies can come right in Cassuth County, pull up the ordinance right online, and figure out where they can go and where they can't go.
But if they have to put a tower, logistically, to make it most efficient for them, all they gotta do is go to the landowner and we'll give you on this, we'll give you a special, or we'll give you an extra $4,000 to let us put it there, I would think they would, $4,000 is nothing to them.
Sure, if they meet the certain
Right.
setbacks that are
Right.
discussed on a per project.
I don't think, in theory, they won't pay one tower more than they do the rest. I don't think or is there some of that that's going
Oh,
on?
yeah, there's a lot of that, but you can't speak about it.
Well, yeah, once you sign your contract, you can't talk about it. You just got a gag order on it. I remember reading that.
I've talked to a lot of guys and they're all different payments.
Yeah, but you gotta talk about it.
Not in public.
Yeah, that,
So will this possibly hinder our ability to work with the companies?
I don't think so. I can't speak on how they'll, it sounds like when they're in an area that they want to be, they just want to be able to have some guidance on how things are working. The conversations that I've had with this guy are basically on email. Where we're at is I've given them copies of the last 3 special use exception permits, along with Cassuth County's. Being familiar with how those are all written, there's a handful of things I think we need to put in there to protect the public and the adjacent landowners. It'll be interesting to see what his comments come back. He told me he was going to have kind of a commented up exhibit for me on Friday, and I still don't have it. But we'll see kind of what they would like to have. It's going to be a give and take, I think, as far as the development end and how we, as far as my administrative role, to create a document that's going to be happy for everybody based on some public meetings.
am I wrong, or at the meetings, did they not say that everybody was gonna get paid the same as far as all? Did they not say that?
Well, that's what they tell you.
Yeah, well, see that, see right there, then gives you reason not to trust.
Maybe it'd be a question for the county attorney if we put into something like this, the monetary end of it would have to be equal throughout the project. I don't know if you could go that.
I personally would be opposed to that, because that these towers, some people don't care, some do. And if I cared, but I'm willing to put up with it for an extra $5,000.
You bet.
And so every individual should be able to negotiate what they want for their own.
And it's gonna pay to care.
I would not want to be big brothers dictating certain rates.
Yep. we're already dictating the locations based on what we know.
The landowner's dictating what they can do with their land. Let's put it that way. I don't think we're dictating, but, you know.
Well, with some setbacks that we're gonna spell out
Right.
in the ordinance, but we're gonna, possibly,
Yeah.
we're gonna have public input. That's what we have meetings for.
At this point, do you think the setbacks on the, say on the acreages and that, are they gonna be in line with what they're saying?
I haven't heard back from them, to be honest. There was a discussion of the 1,600-foot setbacks. I haven't heard yay or nay on how that's working out for them, if it's gonna work. All we know is what the county to the west of us is doing. I'll probably reach out to Faribault County.
Is that what
Zoning.
Cassuth is?
Yeah.
1600?
Yep.
You guys, got anything you wanna add?
Well, I think that special ordinance sounds better to know that you spell it out to me. I mean, if you just come in and say 1,600 feet, they can still come in and tear up your roads and do whatever they want. At least you guys can make some different ordinances as you go. I mean, that sounds like a better, probably route to take than, if you say 1,600 feet, they can come in and if they're 1,600 feet, they don't even have to listen to you guys, once you have the ordinance set, right, correct?
Well, if they meet the requirements, it's our obligation to approve a permit.
Right. Or this way, it sounds to me like you guys would have a little more say.
Every project has a little bit different outline and can, hinder or protect certain areas, and I think it would just be our best interest to be able to have, at least if it's gonna be in our county, surrounding a certain area, we have some clout in how they use it, so.
It isn't us, it gives you guys more control.
Right.
Yeah. When I say us, I mean.
Yeah, and that, when I said it earlier too, I'm saying us having control, I mean.
Mhm.
I guess I'd be okay with going with the special use exceptions, like we have them.
I mean, is it something you guys can get public feedback each time rather than you guys just,
Yeah, I think we have, I can't remember how many readings we have to have. I'll have to do some research, but 2, maybe 3, before you guys actually approve the resolution for the special.
And that's at your planning and zoning.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you're kind of talking about, you're doing two different things. So the ordinance, you have to have 3 readings. If you're just doing the special use permit, you just have 1 meeting at the zoning board meeting.
Okay.
And then,
That's a public meeting.
Yes, it is a public meeting,
Right.
but
but the special use
when it
permit,
gets to us, it's a public meeting, but it's not a public, what would you call it?
okay, so I take that back. There's 2 meetings. There's the meeting with the zoning board, and then there's a meeting where the supervisors have to approve what the zoning board did. So it would be 2 meetings.
Yep.
But an ordinance is 3 separate readings.
Okay.
So. And that would just be at the supervisor level.
Okay.
Wouldn't the ordinance have to come from the planning and zoning to us?
No, the exception, if they're asking for it.
It'd be a
But
recommendation.
if we were to go to.
If you're doing an ordinance,
They would recommend it to us, and then we'd have the,
yeah, technically.
We better table that. That needs to be spelled out. Better ask Adam on that. Because if it's an ordinance, then it's not changeable, my understanding. So,
change your ordinances, it's a
It
process.
just takes 3 readings to change an ordinance.
now, from what I just,
No, so we've got a special use, right now the ordinance says you can have a wind turbine in anything zoned ag,
Yeah.
under a special exception permit. For
right,
them to get the special exception permit, we have to meet, my zoning board has to meet in a public forum to be able to spell out that permit.
right,
Then we-
and that's the ordinance. So we can't change an ordinance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's the permit. It's a permission to do that under these exceptions it spells
So
out.
under that rule, do the public meetings apply? That's where I'm getting at. If we got the ordinance, do we have to have a public meeting? I think it's just best to run it by Adam. I really do.
Yeah, I'll go visit with Adam. I want to talk to him about, and this is maybe something else too, you guys would know, I've been getting phone calls about building permits around the county, from more commercial companies, wanting to know if they can have copies or know how many permits I've issued. Do you know if they're public record or not?
Are you talking about in the corporations or in the county world?
In the rural areas, yeah.
I would think that would be public record as well, but I would also maybe just touch base with Adam.
Yep, okay. And that's what that was more the banking institutes wanting to know how many residential building permits I've given, so I said I would check.
I guess the only thing I can see about not having a specific ordinance is, and I'm not saying it would happen with you guys, but future people down the road, somebody's gonna get their pocket padded to do what they want them to do,
Yeah.
you know?
I agree
And
with
that's
that.
the only issue there, I guess I could see, because, there's only 4 of you guys that make the decisions, and there's big dollars involved there. Somebody's gonna pay you guys, so I guess that is probably an issue that I could see could come up.
But according to there's laws that supervisor can only take $3.
Yeah,
And if they take more than that, they're subject to legal action.
correct,
If you catch them.
right.
Another thing too, in that contract they have, I would hope to have some way of protecting our county and our citizens. They can walk away. They don't have to give you a reason. They don't have to give the landowner a reason. In that contract, if you read it, they can absolutely walk away.
Oh, they have all total control.
And they are walking away from the ones by Joyce, I think, if you guys heard that.
Yes.
Oh,
As they're done, they're
That's the
done.
one that's been sold how many times?
Yep.
Yeah. And the last
There's
guy
turbines
here's-
sitting there not moving. They're dead.
Yeah.
They're dead.
They said, this is farmer talk, that they said they could put up 6 to 8 big turbines now to do the same amount that whole farm is doing.
Yeah.
So they're not, I don't know what they're gonna do with them, but
That's that one with the really small turbines
yeah, yep.
in the barn.
So,
And that was discussed in a couple different meetings and conversations, is what kind of, demolition plan do you have? Discussing with the structural end of things, how they build the foundations to the turbines, they're structurally built to be able to go down 4 feet to be able to remove that. Having said that, if they can, these companies, are they bonded to be able to remove it? Do they have the money to be able to remove that? And that's, I think, stuff that we need to put into a special use permit, that they have to bond to a point where no matter who walks away, at least it can be dealt with that way.
It's 4 feet enough.
you're not gonna grow a crop there again.
No, it's gonna be a dead spot,
But you're not
especially in a
gonna,
dry year.
you're never gonna anyway. No matter how far you need to go, you're probably never gonna grow a crop there anyways.
Really?
I mean, you can see where they built Highway 9 how many years ago. You can drive by and see places where they had borrow pits, on the right year, the crops there's nothing there, so.
So anyway, the conversations are starting, so I'm guessing here in the next couple, 3-4 months, we're gonna probably really get rolling with this stuff, so.
Sounds like you got a handle on what we need in there, so.
I just wanted to kind of visit with you guys a little bit, the difference between the special permit and the actual changing of the ordinance, so.
And we can make more changes much easier in a special permit than we can.
Yeah. And we've got 3 other projects we can look at, visit with the folks that were part of it, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what should we have added, what shouldn't we have added, if they're having some issues that we don't know about. So.
would abandonment be a big issue with you guys? I'm trying to think, if I had one on my property, I wouldn't mind if they abandoned it, as long as I could get it, as long as I ended up with it.
Well, the only issue, if they legally need to be lit, liability, all that, then it's all your liability there.
Right, yeah.
There's a lawsuit in North Dakota or South Dakota right now, and an airplane hit one in the fog, and it didn't have a light functioning like it was supposed to, and huge lawsuit.
And the farmer, his name is in the lawsuit, whether it's gonna cost him anything.
Right.
But a lot of these aren't lit around here either, so.
No, we were noticing the other night, me and the kids, we counted 6 of them that didn't have lights on top of them.
Working at Shooters, I talked to some guys who were putting up the towers a couple years ago, and I asked them that. And they said that they are only required to put a light on the first and the last one in a row. And I said, that's not very fair to everyone. And they said, that's just what we do. So if you notice, if there's a line of 4, there's,
If the row is east and west and you're flying north and south, you
Yep.
call that one the first one.
yep, I don't know.
Technically,
That's FAA for you.
Yeah,
That's
why would they
everything.
ever make, I mean, it's just, I think that they'd all need a light on them. The one in the middle may be the one you come to first.
how expensive is it to have a light on it? Can't cost much to run it.
I think maintenance is the issue, because if you have to have a light that goes out one night, you're liable, so they need to fix it right
Yeah, but
then.
with LED lights now,
Sure.
it lasts a long time.
And they- I would assume that, I mean, that's not something you need a crane for to fix a light. You just have to
It
go.
must be more than the guy thinks, because all the med towers,
I'll
they
ask-
build them at 199 feet, so they don't have to light them, because at 200, they have to light them.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I'll ask my nephew, Tommy Bacon, is a wind turbine, not a windmill, wind turbine engineer. All right, well, is there anything else we need to?
We're good. Thank you, guys.
All right,
for the update.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thanks, yeah.
Okay, open forum. Have anything? Anybody else got anything? Open forum?
2 minutes for items.
Good. How's the amp operation on your floor?
I think it's gonna be 0.
All good right now.
You would just do a great job.
You're all, it's just got dry.
I walked across the subway and be like, wow, you're early. Yep,
Yeah.
sure am. What I got underneath my dishwasher clean, which hadn't been done, so it worked out okay.
They didn't impact, that'll pretty much explode.
Oh my.
Morning.
Never seen such a thing.
What's up?
I got it down to cowboy bitches.
My 7-year-old I got it for her birthday.
And it lights up? Does it light up?
Yeah, mine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it lights up.
Did you know that the person that invented those, it didn't go, let their patent go, and now somebody else picked it up and made themselves?
A lot of money.
Billionaire.
Yes. It's multi-millionaire. A How would you like to be the person that invented them? I bet they're really sitting there with a fidget, they're reading.
Yeah.
I have to, I just I can't get into sitting and playing.
Well, I thought weren't they designed to be used for people that had like,
ADHD,
yeah, like,
whatever.
I think that's what
I
they're
suppose.
kind of designed for, but now they're just like taken off as a toy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then somebody said that they started fires.
Really?
It's been
Video
fast
where the guy
enough.
just
Oh, remember what? I can see how, I can see how it could get,
Oh, you're just,
No, I mean-
there you go.
Yeah,
Well, once the lights on, they're kind of neat.
it's kind of mesmerizing.
Get yourself hypnotized with it or something. Okay, 10:30 a.m., discussion with possible action on the method and process for the sale of the former LEC building and land.
yeah, I just told Carl to put it back on, when you guys talked about it last week. We just have to, whatever process you guys agree to, we need to put it in a, resolution, also setting it for that public hearing that we talked about. And then at the public hearing, you guys can take comments from anyone and then formally adopt the resolution. It's kind of I want to say it's the second resolution, but it really is a resolution then to actually formalize the process. So the first one is just essentially saying this is what we're proposing to do, setting it for public hearing, and then after the public hearing, you decide the exact process and then go from there. So the public hearing is not the time to take bids or anything like that. It's just, we need to formalize the process, put it in a resolution, set it for public hearing, and then at the public hearing, take any comments, suggestions, and then agree to the final process then.
Any way we sell it? If we were to auction it, we're gonna have to do that too?
Correct. It doesn't matter if we're gonna put it up for bid, if we're gonna take closed bids or, just list it or auction, whatever. We have to, that's what we need to do first, is really agree to what that process is gonna be, set it for public hearing, and at that public hearing, take any comments, concerns, questions. You can always change at that time and say, you know what, no, maybe we should change it from this process to this. And then we set it's kind of a second resolution at that time saying this is what we're gonna do, and then go from there, so. I know that there's been some talk about trying to do it before we get into the winter, so I told Carla to put it back on for today so that's.
Let's get it done then. I guess I'm leaning more toward just auctioning it. If we get what, can we set a price, can we go into closed session and set a price, for?
I think we just do it here, just say we will.
Well, then everybody, then that gives it away.
Well, but I think you have to disclose, you have to put in there that we're not gonna, a minimum bid amount. I think you'd have to do that. You have to give people, I think you have to.
Oh, really?
I think the process has to be foreclosed that this is, if we're gonna take bids, we have the right to reject all bids. And then you guys can reject a bid. If you guys feel like it's not appropriate, you can always
We can do
reject
that
it.
after the fact?
Correct.
We don't have to disclose what that would be?
What that is, no, you can just, you can
That would
agree.
be a way of doing it.
Correct, you can agree right now that, we're gonna take bids, but we're gonna leave ourselves the ability to reject any and all bids.
Okay.
And then, if you decide to reject it, then you can reject it. Because I agree, if you set a minimum at whatever, might get
The minimum.
minimum bid, right? Probably not gonna get way more than the minimum, but unless it's competitive with other people, then obviously that might change, Mike, but.
You were talking about open or closed bids. Open bids would be, somebody submit an open bid a week ahead of time and.
I don't know how that's been done before. Closed bids would be if you just, don't you do that for drainage? Where they have to, they submit a bid by such and such date, and then you open them up and look at them. Open bids to me would be like if you were just gonna list it for sale. Just put a sign up there that says for sale. That, to me, that's more kind of an open bid, I guess. Maybe that wasn't the best term to use, but,
I
that's.
think closed bid kind of gets people to really do their homework and on what they can afford, what they can't afford to do with it.
So, it's, you know, whatever you guys are comfortable with. And like I said, it's not locking it in today, I mean, or next week when you accept the resolution and you put it for a public hearing. You can always change, you know, at the public hearing if someone comes in with comments or concerns. You're not bound by what you're putting in this first resolution. You're just telling the public that this is what you're considering for the process, and then at the public hearing is when we'll.
So first action of business would be to set a public hearing.
First what we need to do is, so ideally next Tuesday, you would approve the resolution, which would have the process that you guys agree to, also setting it for public hearing. That would be the first thing to do next Tuesday. And then we would publish it, have the public hearing within that 4 to 20 day or 4 to 20 day. So we need to publish it, have the public hearing within that time, and then at the public hearing, you can continue with that plan, and, or if you want to change it a little bit, but the first thing would be to, next Tuesday, to sign a resolution and set it for a public hearing. And the resolution just simply needs to say, 1, when the public hearing is, but 2, what you guys are considering for the process. So if it's closed bids.
Well, we need to do that today so he can write the resolution.
You need to tell me the process so that I can prepare the resolution so that you guys can sign it. So, and the resolution doesn't have to be anything too detailed, just if you're gonna have closed bids, when's a deadline, just that kind of detail.
Well, my recommendation is to auction it, because you get the best of both worlds. That's basically a closed bid, because everybody comes in with what they think they're gonna pay, or what their closed bid would be. But if there's 2 guys that, they can get into a bidding war, so that's my recommendation.
So you just have like set a date, a time for an auction, and
With the right to refuse if the auction doesn't go for whatever.
Yep.
Are you hiring an auctioneer then?
We don't have to. We could. Kevin could do it. I mean, you don't have to ask, you look at all these big auction houses, they give you this, you don't have to talk to ask to be an auction. But it might be advantageous to have them, they'll do advertising.
The hype of the auction, the lingo has been proven to, there's a reason they do it.
For a percentage
Yes.
or fee. Sometimes, just like with realtors, there's gonna be a minimum fee no matter what if they market it. And probably the same with an auctioneer, just to get them down here is gonna cost you.
And I don't think this first resolution needs to go into detail, who the auctioneer is gonna be and all that stuff. I think it's just that's the process you wanna proceed, so.
I just kind of feel like there's a number of people that would not want to go through the process of bidding in public like that. They would rather submit a bid document and be able to sell themselves with their idea, but
Bill?
What?
But the other part of it is if you do an auction, they're not explaining what they're gonna do with it until after the auction, right?
Well, the question would be, do you care? Obviously it's zone city, so there's certain limitations there that the city has control over. So that's something that you need to think about. That's.
Yeah, the higher bidder, the highest bidder wants it, the highest bidder gets it. Then they gotta play by the rules of the city, so it's.
Do you have to spell out in the auction what you want done with it? Or is it just they get the building and then they can do whatever they want. If they want to keep it a building, if they want to remodel it.
That'd be very.
Do we
unique
care?
to dictate what they're gonna do with
You
it.
can't, you
don't
can't, you
care,
can't really restrict, I mean, you could, what Terry's talking about is making them come in and then explain what they're gonna use it for, and then using that as a factor in who you're gonna sell it to. With an auction, I don't think you're gonna be able to do that, it's just not
And
possible.
I wouldn't want to anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, who are we to tell them what they're gonna use the building for?
Oh, right,
As long
right.
as
That just, I
Fort
just,
City has its zoning.
Mhm.
You know. And as far as, in answer to that, your concern, Terry, if they have a sealed bid, they're gonna be on public record anyway.
Yeah, they are, but
They're not gonna be standing out
It's
there in
not
front
gonna
of
be
the
the back
public with
way
their
for it.
hand up, they're holding their number up. I could see some people not wanting to do that, possibly. If somebody wants it bad enough, they'll do it.
There's one other option to do that, have a sealed bid with the ability to raise your bid. There's lawyers do that with farmland. So,
but you have to get in on the process by having your first bid.
right.
Lots of different ways to do it. You can not sell it, knock it down and put it in parking lot.
That's my vote.
that's my vote.
You know what I mean, there's,
Well,
there's
we
a
may
lot
end
of,
up with that one.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I mean, listing it through realtor, auction, closed, I mean, that's, and I'm not in a hurry, I mean, if you guys want to think about it for another week or two, I don't care, I just know that there's just been talk about trying to do it before the winter, but it does not matter to me, so.
We don't have it in the budget to heat it this winter, so that's the concern.
I don't think we need to heat it, so that's why I'm not in a hurry.
Do we worry about the pipes freezing then?
Easily drainable.
I'm just asking.
We'll blow down the water pipes and the radiator, we'll get them as dry as we can. Some of those will probably freeze, but there's only so much you can do with it.
It's almost impossible to get it all out of the bottom.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if somebody wanted to use that building, we don't really want to ruin it either,
No.
further.
And I think it would be advantageous to us if it ended up that way to at least heat it to 35 degrees or something. Because I don't know if you can ever truly get all the. I tried to get some radiators out of an old house and it had been drained, and when I pressure tested them, they leaked. For when it both leaked on the bottom, where there was still a little water in it.
The problem with heating it to a set degree is that steam boiler operates on pressure, not on temperature. So that when it's on, you're pulling, it's running. Now, if you turn some of the radiators down, it won't maybe run quite as often, but it's not like a forced air heater that I can set it on 42 degrees or 50 or whatever and have it maintain that. When it's on, it takes it up to 5 or 6 pounds and then down to a pound and then back up to 5 or 6.
So there's not a thermostat to control the temperature?
But we don't have to
It's
use
pressure.
boiler. We can use
Well, yeah, we can use space.
accessory heat. So.
Well, we've got one roofy furnace in back, and the rest of the building, there's really nothing there. So that's up to you guys. I'm just letting you
Put an
know how
electric
it's
heater,
well.
little electric heater in each room or something like that.
Yeah, it makes no difference to me. But like Carla said, I didn't really allow much for.
And I think the public safety center is a little bit more expensive than it was the old jail to heat, from what I've seen the last couple months. Just because it's bigger.
It's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
You're heating a lot more square feet, even though it's efficient, it's probably still
Right.
in the end more expensive.
Is that the city bill?
Mhm.
the city did raise their water rates too.
Right.
So that makes a
Right.
difference too.
I'll wait a couple months and do, you know, like I can check in a couple months, see how it averages out, because now the prisoners are in there and whatever.
Yes, I see advantage to both ways of doing it, but maybe the one that would be the, pick the one that's kind of in between, go with the mail-in bids with the chance to increase your bid.
Just like we do at drainage, but they get the chance to up their bid.
Yeah, they get the chance to up the bid, or lower it in that case.
Shouldn't get to lower.
Who's gonna advertise it?
Well, I'll have to.
I think so.
Just like with any other public thing too.
But when you have either a realtor or an auctioneer, their sphere of influence goes way beyond even papers.
Yes, no, yeah, they've got a,
I can ask, if you wanted to do the closed bid, I can always ask Andy or whomever how they get it out and about.
Well, we have our Facebook page too.
Right.
I forget what it's called, but they have a
Andy, they have like an engine, like a website through the state, don't they?
Yeah.
Or engineers use, I
small
think.
construction company.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and auctioneers have their own, well, I mean, they've got ways of getting bulletins in every coffee shop in every town around, you know. You get different places, there's a flyer for someplace back in Buffalo Center, and you're way down in the southwest corner of the state.
I'd be okay with the ability to raise it.
You all right with that one too, Mike? Or you still think
It depends on who's gonna handle it when we go that way.
We would be handling the opening of the documents.
You would handle it just like you would drainage, so.
Right,
I'm thinking Mike's talking about advertisement wise, who's gonna, how we gonna,
we'd be better served advertising it out to an auctioneer?
I do, or a realtor. I just, when I'm talking to an auctioneer, he auctioned off 2 properties in Clear Lake. And the realtor beside him says, you won't get this dollar amount. And he auctioned off them both and got about 120% of what they thought it was worth. And so, or what they were willing to list it for. So, and it can go either way. I mean, it's not a guarantee. No, one way is a guarantee, so. But there again, we have the right to reject it, so.
The other thing I think we need to think about is like, the building is as is. It's, we're like, because it's bad. So it's as is.
That's it.
Well, the whole property is sold that way, yeah.
I don't expect a lot for this.
well, and I mean, honestly, anyone that wants to come and look at it, can come and look at it. I mean,
You never know what somebody can use it for, so it's.
somebody might be looking at it from the standpoint of destroying it and putting something new on there, you know what I mean? You just don't know,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
who knows?
They wanted to do Ghost Adventures there or something.
Yeah, I've already had one request for that. Well, I suppose now we gotta make a decision, huh?
I'd be happy to go with any way you want to go as long as we move forward. I think it's important that we move forward.
No, we need to get the process started, there's no doubt. So, and I can see the benefits to almost any way you do it, and
And keep in mind, I don't want to, like I said, I don't care how fast you guys move on this, but, you know, for next Tuesdays, approve the process, set a public hearing. People come in, if the public comes in and says, you know, I think you guys need to do it this way or that way, or this is wrong, it's not set in stone. I mean, we can,
Would we have to have another public hearing if we change the process?
no, we have to have a public hearing, you're saying this is what the process is. If people come in and you guys change your mind and say, you know what, I think we're gonna tweak it, maybe we'll do this instead, then we set up a resolution at that time saying, this is what we're doing. We don't have to have another public hearing.
So what if the people don't want the other?
Well, they get one shot, they get one public hearing to come in and say, so, I mean, it's not set in stone, you don't have to do this. If you change your mind at public hearing and say, you know what, the public persuaded us to do a different way, we can do that. So I would prefer to, you know, if you guys have a way you want to do it, that's what we tell the public. I don't want to just throw something up into a public hearing just to see what the public says. I would prefer to have what you guys, at least at this point in time, want to do, but it's not set in stone, so.
Options are relatively simple and over with. And if you hire somebody, they'll take care of the advertising and everything.
You hire them and you set the date and time and, I mean, but
If we contact every auction person or company within the county, and we happen to omit one, what happens then? Like, if we're gonna do this next week, we need to get a hold of because we should make them give us an offer.
well, but that doesn't have to be by next week. All we need to do is determine what the process is gonna be. We can, after you guys say this is for sure the way we're gonna do it, after the public hearing, then you will wanna reach out to the different, reach out to everyone and say, this is what we wanna do, what's it gonna cost? So, you know, eventually we would have to get to that point, but you don't need to do that before next week. I just need to know what you guys want the process to be so that we can have a resolution and set the public hearing date in there, and I can get with Carla on that and figure out what date's gonna work.
It would be kinda nice though to know what kind of fees we're gonna have to pay before we set the process.
Well, and you guys can, I mean, you can do that now. I mean, you can make those calls now if we want to do that.
They do an auction, at least they would know what their fees are.
Yeah, I guess it'd be the same thing.
I mean, that's,
I know the auctioneers, they do that more of as a courtesy. Well, I know, the road department, they just rotate it. They don't do this, they just rotate it.
You can get an auctioneer to come in and sell it, it's just whether you want their advertising system or not.
Right.
I mean, I know guys that know how to do auctioneering, they can come in and do that, they can do it for a minimal amount. But if you want the advertising of their web of,
And do you want to include online bidding? You know, Hallberg over there, he's been doing a lot of online bidding stuff where you physically don't have to be there.
well,
County, but consider it business in the county.
yeah, it is.
Where's he get out of the code, the SAP? That's not his office.
The staff is actually in Cassuth, it's just on the other side.
Is it?
Yep.
So his whole business is.
Yeah. Property line is I believe is the east side of the grove of that place. That's the mile right there.
Well, like I said, I'm anxious to move forward with something.
You can not second it, but just to get this thing going, I'll make a motion to procure an auctioneer to sell the former LEC building.
I'll second it.
Motion from Stegler, second from Derby to procure an auctioneer to
sell the former LEC building and land.
No, it's not about discussion on this. So this is what our resolution's gonna be then?
Yeah, so Terry, what I would do is, I'll prepare a resolution. In there, it will just talk about the process, it's gonna be an auctioneer. At a later date and time, we'll set the date, time for auction, all that. That doesn't need to be spelled out yet. Just that we're gonna use an auctioneer to sell it. We'll have to have we'll set it for a public hearing. And then at the public hearing, you can take comments, questions from the public about the process of using an auctioneer. And if after the hearing, you guys say, we're still gonna use this process, then we establish a resolution that says, this is what we're gonna do. And then we go through the details after that about who we're gonna hire, when we're gonna set it for an auction, all that stuff's done after the fact.
Or if somebody is there that has.
Or a public
a better
hearing,
idea than us.
yes, or public hearing, they say, you know what, have you guys considered this idea? And you guys say, hey, you know what, we kinda like that, then we switch directions, so.
What about if, I don't know, and we should discuss this now, if we do an auction, are we gonna have the right to refuse any and all bids?
That's what Mike was talking about earlier, and I'm assuming that's what you guys are gonna want to do, but.
We also want to say, I think that we want to exclude the land that tower sits on and the building that we're going to.
Well, we'll set up our parameters of what's selling, parcel off. And
Eventually, yeah, we're gonna have to tell the auctioneer we might have to do a survey. I mean, we're gonna have to survey it at some point in time before we sell it.
I know a guy that was sitting in the back of the room that can do that.
So we're gonna have to do that, but, I mean, I don't think that needs to necessarily be spelled out. I mean, we can spell it out now, but a lot of those details we can work out later, the time, the place, who we're gonna use, advertising, all that stuff.
And having that licensed realtor really helps doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, right to reject all bids, obviously, it's gonna be sold as is, that's a given, but.
So, are we gonna start contacting the auctioneers now then, so we can get proposals from them?
We don't know if we're gonna use them.
Yeah, I would wait until you do the public hearing first, unless you want some of that information to share with the public.
I know.
So you certainly can.
Just basic request for proposals.
Yeah, you can start doing all that, but I mean, until we have the public hearing, nothing's set in stone. After the public hearing is when it's kind of two resolutions. The first resolution says, this is what we're thinking about doing. This is the public hearing. The second resolution is after the public hearing where we say, this is what we've decided. This is how we're gonna sell it.
So the basic questions to the auctioneers are gonna be, what would you charge for selling it? What's your marketing strategy for it? How far out will it go? And, what's the third one I was gonna put in there? Just had it. Oh. Yeah. Is there gonna be a minimum fee? Whether we sell it or not?
Oh,
Well, the right to refuse all bids is basically a minimum fee.
no, I think he's talking about, if you guys refuse all the bids at the auction, does the auctioneer still get paid? I think that's what Terry's talking about. So, I mean, they get a percentage, but do they get a minimum for doing it regardless?
If they sell it for $1,000, it's not a whole lot of fee to be had.
Yeah. Well, that's the next thing, it's gonna, is it gonna be that appealing to a lot of these guys to be worth their effort in a sense too.
Yeah, start talking to them. I mean, I don't think it hurts to reach out to some of them now and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing.
Yeah, if you have a piece of equipment on your auction and you've got a price on it, you have to pay the auctioneer his fee on the bid that was there. So, yeah, I don't think we're gonna wanna come into it free if it doesn't sell.
I don't think they have to bring a lot of staff to do it either. It's
No, it's just basically them.
more of a marketing thing for us.
Yeah. They listing it with a realtor will take longer, I guess, because they're gonna leave it out there for a while.
It's been proven down in Hamilton.
Well, I can work on a resolution for auctioneer, right to reject all bids, and then we'll sit on the agenda for next Tuesday with the resolution, with public hearing, date and time in there, and then go from there.
The other thing we could ask the auctioneers, what time frame do they think would be best to sell?
Yeah,
Is it 2 months, or is it gonna be November that we can sell?
how long are they gonna need to get the advertising out there to get it in their goodness?
With all the digital stuff now, that they can get it out there pretty fast.
Talking about Duncan Heights one.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll draft that up for next Tuesday and then we can,
We can.
Oh, we need to vote on it. I think all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
okay, well, Carl, I'll talk to you later this week, get the public hearing date and
They
time.
want to bundle
Yeah, they could lump it in with
parcel A, parcel B,
Yeah,
Duncan Heights, the hospital.
Okay,
all right, thanks.
yeah.
Okay. Consider for approval payroll claims.
We're ready to that motion.
Okay.
Well, that twins, Tim's one that goes through. Well, I'm trying to right.
Does that mean all our problems are solved there then?
No, there's trees growing over the tile right now. Not the main, though.
I think I heard in their meeting, they have a plan to get it.
Everybody get out there and get it sprayed.
Carla, do you have a second? Yeah, just one second.
don't remember Larry Office having anything to do with that, because the picture that's attached with it is quite modified. Terry Hughes went out there, dug the hole on his own, dug the trench out there, and found the problem. He never did send a bill for that. He just went out, opened it up, and let it flow. This whole thing with the road ditch, you think those guys got their dander up just because of the personality conflict more than anything else?
I certainly hope that he asks for a closed meeting.
As a contractor, I don't think it's necessary, it's just something that should be taken care of. As far as saying that they will maintain it or whatever, yeah.
I'll second your motion.
Motion Stenger,
It's being recorded.
yeah, motion Stenger, second Derby to approve the semi-monthly county claims. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, it's the payroll claims.
Yep. I seconded Mike's motion on the payroll.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, have a good day.
I suppose we should probably get the information from Andy we need for how much we need to retain out there. And have that survey as soon as possible. We can just hire without putting that out there, really, can't we?
Or survey out the tower out there.
It's professional services like anything else.
Is it a conflict of interest to hire the one that just left?
He works up for a company out of Des Moines.
Oh,
But I don't know, is there the only other ones around? Matt lives in Winnebago County.
yeah.